So one more lighter hearted and kind of funnier story about my self-expression through my sexuality and my wardrobe, my style, my image. Growing up, I was overweight, I was fat, and so my sense of style and image was non-existent. If I was looking to fit even an elasticized waist or things that might be more form-fitting, you could say, I was uh, I was still kind of surprised. And so as I grew up and as I became a more healthy weight and started developing my own personality and image and style through fashion and through wardrobe and through costume and other things like that, I started to really become quite the fashionista, quite the diva. And it definitely is not who I am now. And it was definitely still lies inside of me, and it comes out once in a while when I feel it's appropriate or when I have the itch to kind of get that swag on. So for my 11th and 12th grade of high school, I went to an alternative school called Total Education. And this program was a mini program for kids that were dealing with mental health issues, dealing with just trying to stay in the school system before, as opposed to being incarcerated or put into juvenile hall. Yeah, students that were similar to me that might have been maybe demographically or wherever we're from might be so-called mainstream and nothing out of the ordinary, but might be on a different learning path in their cognitive behavior, or perhaps are wanting to get out of the main system and they just need a quick out, but not without sacrificing their GED. I mean, everything under the roof and the kitchen sink. And so being in this program was a huge blessing for me because it gave me an ability to express myself through my love of visual and performing arts. And being around, on average, 90 other kids through two different grades, only half of them really attended on a regular basis, and many of them were absent or incomplete, which is really unfortunate. But someone like me that really wanted to get through the school system as fast as possible, but also receive enough education to make it worth, it was really a blessing to be a part of a program that not only celebrated and supported me to develop and to establish and kind of give you the space to express myself and my sexuality and my artistic nature. It was really a great place to also meet some beautiful people who were friends at the time and no longer are now, but at the time was a really phenomenal place to be there. And one of those friends actually that I'm still very close with in my heart doesn't live in Vancouver anymore, but I'm still very close to them. And it's great to have that memory with that person as well in that time. So there was a time, I believe it was grade 11 or grade 12. I think it was grade 11. I can't remember. It was obviously like, '09, 10, '08, '09. Anyway, so I've never been a person that likes to dress up in costume. I've never had the idea or the concepts or anything, but I always knew how to strut down that fluorescent, low ceiling hallway, and then really hack on that linoleum with my men's Fluevog heels and tight pants and hot pink flamboyancy that I used to have and that I thought was who I was at that time. I was quite the flamer in high school for sure. And in my early 20s, but that was me. I loved that part of my development, part of my identity, part of my expression through what I looked like and how I dressed. And so a lot of the time, there would be people that would not know how to handle me, not know how to dress me, and so they would just kind of pretend I wasn't there. If I walked by them, they would look down, or if they looked at me, it might have been with a passive aggressive, non-verbal homophobic kind of energy. And I didn't let it stop me. I didn't let it intimidate me because I knew that they were not as light and they were trying to cast that onto me. And I knew that I was able to rise above that and just hold my own turf. And so for Halloween, I always never knew what to dress up as. I never knew what to do. And so I decided, you know what? I kind of have an idea what I'm going to do for Halloween this year, guys, to my friends and to my mom. And so they're like, what? I said, I'm going to dress completely the opposite of how I normally would dress in terms of how people know me, because it might not look like a costume, but to people that associate with me in the way that I normally present myself visually, it will look like a completely different persona or alter ego to what people have at that point identified me to be in their mind. So when my brother was alive, we still had some of his old clothing, and he wore like size extra large, and I wore like size small or medium, and there was a lot of more so-called less form-fitting, more department store, I guess you could say, um, baggier materials, less flattering materials, like stretchy sweatpants or tearaway pants, and like loose, already oversized kind of loose jackets and ball caps and stuff, and sports jerseys. And so I came dressed in this way when my hair was like hidden underneath a hat, and at that point I had like side swept bangs and long hair, and I like permanently relaxed my hair and stuff, and was very, all about my femininity and my fabulousness. And so the kind of go so what I would consider my interpretation of heteronormative, or like a straight dude, or like a guy that would go to my school, and how they presented themselves, and not in the best way either. It was kind of like a testament, and kind of like an homage to that image, or that portrayal of that kind of persona that was not who I was. And what I noticed pretty quickly is that these men who would give me such horrible looks in my fellow classmates, or these men that would talk behind my back, or that would be discriminatory to my sexuality, or just me in general. I remember coming in like this, and no one could. I mean, my friends knew it was me, but it was kind of like not like doing drag, definitely not. But it was kind of like if I was a female doing trying to be a drag king, and I was trying to be very much in tune with my so-called masculinity, or like how I would dress to conceal my femininity, or to embrace different elements that might be less highlighted, and then highlighting those more than what my normal emphasis could include. So I come in, I'm kind of like, my posture is kind of hunched over instead of, prim and proper, and like, my hips swaying and my heels strutting. I'm just, runners, ball cap, jacket, hoodie, kind of like shrugged, kind of like, just very kind of closed in, dark. And my dialogue was a little bit more like, hey, sup, what's going on, yo? Just kind of my idea of what that character would look like. So sure enough, I'm in the cafeteria during lunch, and I'm also that doubled as our gym, and where we did like PE or like rec stuff as well. And anyways, we had like a very like old school like circuit, kind of like free weight circuit system, where you could like do like shoulder presses and arm curls and all that stuff. And so there was a couple of the guys that I were in my classes quite a bit, and I mean, just typical average dude. There's no really other way of putting it, but um, kind of more rough around the edges, drug users, look like that they're gonna beat you up, even though they probably are the softest people you'd ever met, but they would never show that to you. And so these people would came up to me, and I was with my friends, so it was fine. But a couple of people came up to me and like, "Hey, there's something different about you," and said, "Okay, and your point?" And this guy said to me, "Yeah, you look better like that. You should dress like that all the time, man. You look a lot better." And a couple other guys kind of gave me similar related comments, essentially saying, in their mind, they thought I looked more appealing, or that I was more relatable, or that I looked better because I looked more straight and less gay, or less flamboyant, or less whatever you want to call it. It was like all of a sudden my external appearance and my demeanor being shifted all of a sudden made me, in their mind, more relatable to them, and in a way that they wanted to either, I don't think wanted to connect with me at all, but in a sense made them feel like that they would acknowledge me as if I had existed, that I was kind of part of that I've kind of conformed, or I'm part of that movement, or that part of that clique, I guess you could say, the average guy. So it was really interesting to go through the day in the city in my high school and to have this persona for a day or half a day and to see how different people treated me, both in terms of my sexuality but also in terms of me just being a human and being a person. And so even though this might have been 10, yeah, like let's say 11 years ago, which is a long time for all of these types of things to shift in behavior or acceptance or tolerance or inclusivity. It just kind of goes to show how the way that we present ourselves and how we understand how others might see us, regardless if it's right or wrong, if it's factual or fiction, the amount of tolerance and discrimination and built up judgments can be put into ourself or other people. And when in the end of the day, who cares what we wear in terms of our silhouette, or who cares in terms of the personality and the demeanor that we provide, as long as it's authentic to who we are in the moment that we are expressing ourselves in that way. It's interesting to kind of sit here and reflect upon what were some moments in my recent past as a teenager or as a youth that, even if they weren't necessarily harmful or toxic to me and it didn't break me at all, but where I understood and where I realized there were some differences in perception and perhaps judgment, and had I not been confident enough in myself to not be affected by those types of situations, I do wonder how it would have been if that wasn't the case. So, to those individuals that may have been like that to me, I thank you for challenging me to challenge myself to stay grounded and rooted in my sense of my identity and to know that I don't have to change anything about myself to appeal.